Hooty hoo, all my stock market gamblers. Welcome today. I'm Tall Mike. I'm so glad you're here. What do we got going on? Well, I told you that I thought the markets topped on the Fed day, right? I thought the S&P topped, I thought the NASDAQ topped, and I thought they topped on the day the Fed cut interest rates. Now, why did I think that? Well, I think the Fed panicked, right? I mean, why would you cut interest rates when the stock market was at a record high, but yet they had to cut interest rates? They had to panic, right? Because they know there's big problems. And now the stock market's starting to see this, and it's starting to come in. This is just my take. I don't think they can push it back to new record highs. But Mike, we're just going to print more money and push it up higher and higher. I don't think so. Now, here's why. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. The government is broke. They don't have any money, right? Our government's broke. They're insolvent. So we have an insolvent government, but yet we have inflation running hot. By their own numbers, inflation's running at 3%, right? By Tall Mike's numbers, 8 to 10% inflation. But by their numbers, 3%. And there's not a thing they can do, right? Because all they can do is print money. They don't have any money. And you can't solve inflation with more inflation. See, the definition you get in old dictionary is the increase in the money supply. That's what inflation is. New dictionary would say it's prices going up because the government doesn't want to take the blame for what inflation really is, which is them printing money and raising prices, right? The printing of the money goes into the money supply and then the prices go up. The printing of the money, that is where the actual inflation is. But the government's got a big problem, right? They're insolvent government. They don't have any money, but yet we have inflation, right? So it's kind of a checkmate, if you will. And now the Federal Reserve, they panicked, right? They panicked. They cut the interest rate. Okay, and the stock market's starting to come down. Maybe it's going to even start to come down quicker, right? Now, what are they going to do? Well, if they print the money, you're going to get the bond vigilantes. Now, they can print the money. They're cutting the short end rate. Now, what's interesting is the long end of the curve, the 10, 20, and 30-year interest rate is going higher and higher. Your mortgage is going higher and higher. That's where the interest rate is for car loans, for mortgages. Those are going up, cutting the short end. So they're going to print a bunch of money and try to buy the long end, but that's very inflationary. You're going to have hyperinflation. See, they're going to have two choices, right? They can either hyperinflate or they can let the market come in. I think they're going to hyperinflate eventually. They're going to let the market come in, but by December, January, they're going to be cutting rates down to zero. They're going to be cranking the printing press, and we're going to look to hyperinflation at that point. And that's why you need gold, right? I mean, I think you need some gold. Gold is keep going up. Why does gold keep going up? It's tied to the debt, right? It's one and the same with the debt. And when you have an insolvent government, they're going to go farther and farther into debt, and that's going to push gold up higher and higher. Once again, this is just my take. You got to do you. I got to do me, but I'm a gold guy. I'm a silver guy. Silver, better buy than gold right now. Ratio about 82 to 1 or something like that. Could come down to 15 to 1, the ratio between an ounce of gold and an ounce of silver. 15 ounces of silver will get you an ounce of gold, and that's when I'd take my silver and I'd actually trade it into gold if we get down to that 15 to 1 level. That's just my take, just what I'm doing. All right, so let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the Bitcoin market, right? Bitcoin struggling, right? Above 100,000, below 100,000, above 100,000, below 100,000. It's struggling, right? But here's the thing. You got Michael Saylor, right? Okay, so now Michael Saylor, now he comes out and he's talking about $30 million Bitcoin. Now, I don't actually believe that he believes that's going to get to $30 million. I just think he's a snake oil salesman and he's got to sell the Bitcoin any way he can because otherwise he's going to have to liquidate his Bitcoin. Now, here's the thing. He goes out in public and he starts crying, right? That poor Jim Chanos, he's shorting Microstrategies. He shouldn't be allowed to short my stock, right? Well, your stock's stupid, right? Because you're buying Bitcoin on leverage, and when Bitcoin goes down, you're going to have to liquidate, and your stock's going to go to zero. Now, Jim Chanos, he's a smart man. He can see that, right? So he started shorting where I was shorting, right? I was shorting Microstrategies up here at $500 a share. share. Now, Jim Chanos, he's much smarter than me. I got out when it dropped down below 400. I took my 20% profit and ran away, right? But Jim Chanos, he's adding to his shorts. He's adding more. He's adding more. He's short Microstrategies. Now, when short traders like Jim Chanos, they usually back it against something, right? He's actually long Bitcoin, but short Microstrategies. And so far, this trade has worked out for him really well, right? Because Microstrategies down over 50%, right? And Bitcoin's only come down 25%. But Jim Chanos saw the opportunity there. He saw that Microstrategies is a leveraged Bitcoin play, and that's going to come down a lot faster than the Bitcoin. So he went long Bitcoin and short Microstrategies, and you got Michael Saylor crying that he shouldn't be allowed to short my stock. Look, eventually I believe they're going to do away with shorting stocks, right? I think they did this in Australia. You're not allowed to sell a stock short, and I think we're going to go that way here, right? Once the market starts to crash, they're going to say no more shorting stocks, right? They're going to take that off the table. They're going to change the rules of the game as the stock market starts to crash 50, 60, 70, 80%. They're going to have to stop the crash somehow, and they'll probably stop it by saying you can't short stocks anymore. But right now, Jim Chanos is winning big time. He's down 50%. Yeah, the MicroStrategy came down 50%, which is a 50% win for Jim, and he's only down 25% in his Bitcoin. But be careful, Jim. That Bitcoin's going to start free falling pretty soon. But he's got a really good trade on because he knows MicroStrategies will come down quicker, but MicroStrategies can't go below zero, right? Once he loses all your money now, you got to go back. You can Google this. You can look it up. Now, in the dot-com boom, Michael Saylor lost all of his investors' money, right? But anyways, he's back with the Bitcoin, right? He couldn't make it in business, but now he's in Bitcoin, right? He's buying Bitcoin. He goes around, talks to other corporations and tell them, you got to get in Bitcoin. Please buy the Bitcoin, right? So all these Bitcoin treasury companies are out there. Donald Trump's one of them, DJT, Donald Trump, right? His company, DJT, I think's the symbol. It's down over 50%. I've something like that, right? Because it's a Bitcoin treasury, and Bitcoin comes down, those Bitcoin treasury companies are getting slammed. See, what's interesting is Bitcoin's going to bring the whole NASDAQ down with it. That's why you got to be careful in this NASDAQ, right? It's going to come down sharp. When Bitcoin keeps dropping, if it keeps dropping, maybe they run it back up. I don't think so. I think it's going to keep dropping. And once Michael Saylor has to start liquidating his Bitcoin, you're going to see Bitcoin just free fall at that point. You want to be out of it because all the treasury companies will be dumping their Bitcoin onto the marketplace trying to get out. It'll be a race to zero is really what it is. But okay, I mean, you got these Bitcoin people, they keep telling me that it's digital gold, right? I mean, they paint a coin, they paint it gold, right? And that's their Bitcoin symbol, a gold painted coin. First of all, Bitcoin, there's no coin in it, right? It's not a coin. It's an algorithm. It's a string of numbers, right? And Bitcoin mining, look at mining is digging a hole in the ground, doing physical work to get the gold and silver out. It's not having your computer solve some math problem so you can win the prize of Bitcoin. That's not mining. Bitcoin is not digital gold. They can paint it gold all they want, but it has no properties of gold. Bitcoin's going like this. Gold's going like this, right? I mean, they're crossing paths, doing the exact opposite of each other, but these people want you to believe that Bitcoin is digital gold. I don't think so. I don't think so. Even Kathy Woods, right? Kathy Woods, what's her price target? She's got $1.5 million price target on it by 2030. Okay, $1.5 million on Bitcoin by 2030. Interesting. Well, she just lowered her price target. Kathy, don't you believe in Bitcoin anymore? Well, she says because the stable coins are coming out, that's going to be competition for the Bitcoin. Bitcoin, her price target now is only 1.2 million. You go, Kathy Woods. You know what you're talking about. No, you don't. You're an idiot. That's just my opinion. Nothing personal. Just my opinion. But you got too much leverage in this Bitcoin market. You really are too levered out there. Now, here's what's fascinating, right? You got these Bitcoin bankers, let's call them, right? Because nobody wants to sell their Bitcoin. So they want you to give it to the Bitcoin banker and he'll give you a loan against your Bitcoin. But okay, let's talk about this, right? All right, so let's say Bitcoin, we're going to use rough numbers. Let's say you bought Bitcoin at $10,000 and it ran up to $100,000, right? Okay, so you bought one Bitcoin for 10 grand and now you got 100 grand, but you don't want to sell that Bitcoin because it's going to 30 million according to Michael Saylor, 1.2 million according to Kathy Woods. Now, a lot of their targets were for this year. I know most of these Bitcoin YouTubers, they had the target of $500,000, $1 million in 2025. Well, you're running out of time, right? I mean, 2025 is almost over and we're below 100,000 here. Come on, Bitcoin, get going. You got to match these targets that all these people are hyping up there. But okay, so you got $10,000, you bought your Bitcoin. It's at $100,000. You need a new car, right? But you don't want to sell that Bitcoin. No. So you go give it to the Bitcoin banker, right? And the Bitcoin banker gives you a $50,000 loan to go buy your car. So you go buy the car for $50,000, right? And now as Bitcoin, that's your collateral to the banker, right? They give you 50% on it. If it's at 100,000, they'll loan you 50 grand, right? Okay, but here's what happens. Okay, so you go buy your car, right? You go buy your car for 50 grand. And now all of a sudden the banker calls you up. Bitcoin's dropped to 50 grand. We're going to have to sell your Bitcoin or you're going to have to give us some more Bitcoin in there. Well, I don't have any more Bitcoin. I got a car though. Will you take my car? No, we won't take your car, but we'll take some more Bitcoin. I don't have any Bitcoin. Well, I'm sorry. We got to sell your Bitcoin. So they sell the Bitcoin for 50 grand, right? Okay, Bitcoin come down to 50 grand. Well, who gets that money? Well, the banker gets that money because he gave you that loan for 50 grand. Now you owe the banker a little extra because he's got 12% on that loan that you're paying him. So you're in debt to the banker, right? So you owe the banker money. But here's the funny part, right? Okay, so you don't got any money now, right? You don't have your Bitcoin to sell. Well, your Bitcoin got sold by the Bitcoin banker at 50,000, but you got this car, right? This depreciating asset that you just love, this car, right? But you know what? You now have taxes of about $20,000 because you got a $40,000 gain. They're going to tax you on that. It's called $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. I don't know what tax bracket you're in, but you're going to have to pay the capital gains taxes on that, right? So let's say you owe $15,000. I don't have $15,000. Well, you better get that new car you bought. You better get that sold. I don't want to sell my car, but you're upside down now. You see how the Bitcoin leverage, it doesn't work. It doesn't play out, right? I mean, it's a problem. It's a problem. But they'll give you a loan on your Bitcoin at 50% loan to value because they know it's going to crash. They know it's coming down to 50%. They're not going to give you more than 50% on your Bitcoin. And they're going to charge you 12% because that's a fair thing to do, even though they feel that the Bitcoin is good collateral. They want to make some money on you, right? Well, this is the problem. People are doing this, and there's a lot of leverage in the system, right? Michael Saylor, he's leveraged as much as he can be. That's why he's going to bring the whole market down. I think he could be responsible for the NASDAQ crash, right? Because he's levered out, I mean, he's paying people 12, 14, 16% because he said Bitcoin is guaranteed to go up 30% a year into perpetuity. It's just never going to come down. It's impossible for Bitcoin to come down. But right now he's crying the song blues. He's singing the blues right now because Jim Chanos is grabbing onto his company and just smashing it down. He's shorting that company and it's coming down. I think he's going to drop below $200. Was it 500? Down to 240 or so. I don't know where it's at, but it's going to get below 200. Probably drop back below 100. Michael Saylor, he's going to be crying. He's going to be crying to the media. They can't let him short my stock. Well, Michael Saylor, if you weren't so leveraged, people wouldn't be shorting your stock, but they see it. I see it. I was shorting it at 500. I'm the idiot that got out at 400. Made 20% profit, but Chanos, no, he wants more than that. He's going after Michael Saylor and Michael Saylor crying. But the leverage in these things, right? They're all levered together. All these crypto treasury companies, right? I mean, it's just going to come tumbling down. It's a house of cards. There's nothing behind it. You got to get some real money. I keep talking about that. You want to sleep at night? Get some gold. Get some silvers. I sleep like a baby. I got a lot of that stuff, right? That's what I believe in. I don't believe in the stock market. Matter of fact, gold has outperformed the stock market for the last 25 years, but they won't tell you that. No, not your investment advisor. He wants you in the market. That's where he can make his commissions on you. Once you get gold, once you get it in your hands, it's yours. There's no counterparty risk. They can't charge you on that anymore. It's yours. It's real, right? And that's something that you can live with. with. That's something that I can live with. That's something that lets me sleep well at night. That's something that's outperformed the market for the last 25 years. Going to do it for the next 25 years, in my opinion. In my opinion, once again, I think Dow Jones hit a new, what did Dow do, 47, 48,000? I don't even know. But anyways, I think it's going 1-to-1 with gold. Gold, that's called 4,000. Dow, 48,000. We got a 12x times we're going to do this, right? We're going to 12x our money just by buying gold. But my gold's at a record high. I don't want to buy up here. Nobody wants to buy up here. But you got to buy up here because it's not coming back down here. So you got to get some while you still can. Look, you feel bad buying it. It costs $4,600 right now for a gold buffalo. $4,600, and a lot of people don't like doing that, right? Because they just can't handle that. But look at when would you rather wait for it to get to 10,000 and buy your gold buffalo up there? Maybe you just hold on and wait till it gets to 10,000 and buy it up there. I say get it here and up there, and you're gonna be smiling. You're gonna be saying that tall Mike guy, he's not as dumb as he looks. Anyways, if you like this stuff, give me the thumbs up, punch the subscribe button. Get out there, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.